Welcome to Elliott's PT podcast. I'm here to help you find your balance and live your best life guilt-free. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach for health and fitness. We're all different and we need to find out what works for us. I'm passionate about helping people make realistic, long-term lifestyle changes that they will stick to and they will take with them forever. I don't believe in crazy diets or short-term fixes. We all need to live and find a perfect balance in diet and exercise that suits our individual needs. I want to help you find your exercise mojo, feel great and achieve wonderful things. Here is Elliott's PT podcast by Renae Elliott. Hello, and welcome back to Elliott's PT podcast. So today I'm actually recording this podcast while I'm driving. So if you can hear a bit of funny noise, it is because I'm driving and I am trying to multitask. So I thought I would do this while I had a bit of a journey and I had these thoughts in my head. So I thought I would get them out while I was driving and kind of killing two birds with one stone. So if you hear a bit of a funny noise, that's why, because I'm in the car. But you know, I like to get things done when I can, and obviously when you know, I've got something on my mind, I think it's good to get it off your chest, and I feel that this could be helpful. So today I want to talk about data points. So when and collecting these data points, when anybody has a journey. And we have this journey of, you know, whether it's a journey to, you know, losing weight, building muscle, getting more active, any of the things that you are looking to achieve. What I find people's biggest stumbling block is that they think that things either need to be perfect, and they have this idea that things should be a perfect way, or, you know, or that there needs to be a perfect time to start. So they have this idea first, so that can be something that can hold you back. The other thing that I feel that they have, this idea of being perfect. The other thing that I feel is that people are only focusing on one thing. So they're only focusing on one point of data instead of focusing on lots of data. And it's when we focus on this one thing and then this one thing doesn't go as perfect as we think it should be, or what we think it is, then people think that they're not progressing, and then they give up. And the truth is, most people are actually progressing a lot more than what they think they are. They're just looking or focusing on only one point instead of many data points. So as part of the programs that I run, I put a big focus on collecting the data and taking information from it. So the data from your body. Now, I can give you data from the experience that I have, but the most data you want to find is your body. The data from your body, and listen to the feedback from your body, because that you are unique, your circumstances are unique, and where you're at in life is different to everybody. So I can tell you what the things that I know will work or has worked from experience. But when you start to recognize that stuff yourself and you start to be able to recognize these data points and take in that information, then you are really going to have this long-term success, and you're going to be able to manage it yourself. And the thing that I really want everybody to do is I want them to find something that they can manage themselves for life. Because when we can manage it for life, then we will have ups and downs, and you can adjust according to the data that your body is giving you. One of the biggest things that I feel, you know, that is a really big data point, and, you know, there is lots of people out there that are, you know, like say is a scale. So the scale is a big thing that is a great data point. It is not our only data point to find. But gives you a great piece of information. And I really wish that people could just see it as one little part of information in a whole lot of information, data points that we need to be looking at. But what I see people doing is they either focus on this one thing, and then they might go through a phase of saying, you know, because there's also lots of people out there that say, throw the scales away, don't look at the scales, all of these other things. But it's when you start to give the scales meaning. The scales it is one little piece of information that can help you on your journey. That is it. It doesn't mean anything about you. The scale does not, it doesn't mean you're a good or bad person. It doesn't take into account your hormones, your cycle, what you've eaten that day. It doesn't take into account, if you're bloated, if you're retaining more water. It depends on the type of scale you have. It doesn't take in a lot of that information, but it is one important piece of data that you can take, and you can really learn a lot about yourself from the scales. So I really like the scales. I give the scale no meaning. The scale means nothing. It's a piece of data. It doesn't mean I'm a good or bad person. It doesn't mean I'm a loser because I weigh more. It doesn't mean any of those things. It is just a piece of information for me to take and to learn about myself and my body, and then I can adjust things accordingly. And I really urge you to try to think of it in this way. I understand there is people that have, lots of body image issues and things like that. And, they may have more eating disorder tendencies and those types of things. So, but please, please try. I'm just driving and I'm like, oh God, have I missed a cutoff? No, I haven't. I'm okay. But please, just if you have those tendencies, then don't get on the scales every day. But if you are somebody that, if you're somebody that hides from the scales and all of that, I really want you to think about to stop giving it that meaning and stop giving it power. It doesn't need power. You don't give it that power. It is just a piece of information. Now, why am I encouraging people to get on the scales more? We all have a weight that we like. We have a weight that we might like to be at. That's all fine. Yeah, we have a weight that we like to be at. And I think that when you are weighing yourself on the scales, then you can, there's a weight that we all feel comfortable at. We know that, our clothes fit us. We feel more confident. Your clothes fit you right, or, at this certain weight. Now, if you are avoiding the scales, and let's say you're avoiding them and you're going through a stressful time in your life, then you might then not notice if you have put on some weight because you won't get on scales. And before we're not getting on the scales because we don't, we want to throw out the scales and not make them define us or any of those other things. But you're going through a stressful time, and you are, you're eating more than what you normally do. Maybe your level of activity has stopped, but you don't really notice, and we start putting on some weight, but we're quite stressed. So, we're dealing with everything else. And then before you know it, your clothes suddenly don't start fitting you. You're starting to feel uncomfortable. We get on the scales and we realize that we have maybe put on 10 or 15 kilos. Now, that can creep up on all of us. And that's fine. I understand. I've seen it happen to people before. But what I ask you is that if you had been getting on the scales more regularly, you may have noticed that when you had put on 5 kilos of, you put on a little bit of weight, you knew you were going through a stressful time. There was things that you could deal with, but you may have noticed it at 5 kilos instead of noticing it when you got to 10 or 15 kilos overweight. So this is why I'm saying, and then I know for me, if I don't weigh myself every day, but I probably do weigh myself once a week, and it's a good, when I do weigh myself, and if I realize, it's a good reminder of, okay, maybe I need to pull my neck, pull my neck in a little bit, wind it in, rein it in a little bit. It's that reminder. That's all it is. And I think that it's good to have that reminder and give yourself a bit of a window. Give yourself a bit of a window of where you like to sit, where you feel most comfortable. And you kind of know if you're getting close to that. You can have a 5 kilo, kind of window. If you're getting close to that 5 kilos over your most comfortable weight, then you kind of know that you've got to, because, weight fluctuates. My weight fluctuates throughout the day, and that's fine, and I understand that. But I just urge people to stop giving it the meaning and understand it's just a piece of information. And whether we like it or not, there's a weight that, like most people that, I could say to them, there's a weight that people like to be at. So, use the scales as this data point and a piece of information. And on the other hand as well, that it's really important. And I love when people that do my programs start saying stuff to me like, oh, I can't have gained, they're starting to realize what's water weight. And, what's the difference between putting on weight and putting on fat, and it's understanding that and understanding losing, like in the same respect, when I weighed 75 kilos and I lost 5 kilos and I'd got a body scan. So I had got a body composition scan and I weighed 75 kilos. And then I set myself a goal because I'd felt like I wanted to sit at 70. So I set myself a goal, lost 5 kilos, and then I rescanned. And when I rescanned, I had lost 3 kilos of muscle. So I was better off when I weighed 75 than what I was when I weighed 70 because I had more muscle mass on me. So, but if I hadn't been scanning myself, if I hadn't been scanning myself, if I'd been looking at if I'd only looked at that one data point of my weight, I would have thought, well, I've lost 5 kilos. I've done really great, and again, but I prefer to have muscle. So, so it was because I've been looking at a different data point, I could understand my body better. And this is what I'm asking you, is to look at things from all data points. And that was when I firstly, and it's understanding the difference between losing fat, losing muscle, and what water weight is. And that's what if there's things that when you have foods that are high in salt, you are going to retain more water. So you are going to retain more water. So that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean you've put on weight. It means you're just retaining more water. But if you are getting on the scales and you're weighing yourself regularly enough, you will start to notice trends in your body. Oh, after the weekend, this happens. After the weekend when I do this, then my weight goes up. So you can notice a trend in yourself. So you can stop beating yourself up and feeling bad about yourself. Go, oh, like I love it. Someone the other week, they messaged me, we have a goal in mind, and she weighs herself once a week as a little check-in, and we measure her waist, and she measures her waist, and her weight was up. But that's what she said. She knew that it was water weight, and so she didn't beat herself up, because what happens is if you weigh, some people, they weigh themselves regularly, and they're only looking at this one data point of the scale. They're looking at this one data point, and then they're then giving it a meaning, and they think that something's not working, or then they judge their day on what they're eating. So they then go, oh, I've put weight on, so I better start restricting my food. And that's not what to do at all. Never restrict your food. Never restrict from what we need food to fuel our bodies correctly. If you are overeating and you realize that you're then putting on weight, then you need to look and rein your food in. But we don't need to go, it's when you understand these data points and you understand what's going on with your body. There is the time of the month, and it's all different everyone's different as to how their body goes. And that's when, if you weigh yourself, there's a time of the month where you're going to weigh more. Now, you've not put on any more fat. You just will hormonally be different, that you will possibly retain more water and those types of things that will make the scale heavier. Again, that means nothing about you. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean what you're doing is not working. It just means at the moment, this is where your hormones are at, and that's affecting that number. And it's when you can start to see these points. Like I said, I had this girl the other week, and she weighed herself, and she was able to say, I know that I've not put on this much weight in, I think it was like 800 grams. She knew that she hadn't put that much weight on. She knew that it was water weight. So then she didn't then lead herself on a path of beating herself up. I think it doesn't work. And what I also see people do is they give it meaning about themselves. They then start to say that, that it's not working, and, well, I may as well just stuff it up bugger it, don't worry about it, and then stuff it up anyway. And this is what I'm saying. If you can start to see these data points, then we can stop beating ourselves up, because, things were doing really well, let's say, until you weighed yourself. But then when you weigh yourself and then you give it that meaning, and then you think you've stuffed it, and then that's when you actually blow it out. But this is why, I want people to stop giving the scales a meaning, and understand it's part of our data points. So yeah, and then you can actually notice trends in your body. This food bloats me, this food makes this happen to me, and blah blah blah. And you can understand, when we drink alcohol, your body sees your alcohol as a poison, so it is going to want to get rid of it's going to prioritize getting rid of this poison, the alcohol, from your body, instead of losing weight. So you can also, again, the data point to understand how your body reacts to things. You may notice through doing different scans and stuff, if you drink a few, like say you drink, I've noticed in my body that if I have quite a few drinks, it might take me a week for my body to return back to where it was, where I like it to be. And again, that's fine. You just have these, when you understand these data points, we can understand more about our body. And this is what I really want for everybody else. So there's other data points that we focus on. So this is what I'm saying. The scale is one thing. We don't want to only focus on that, but we also focus on, like your measurements. So, sometimes I've had the last cycle of the Little Black Dress project, this lady, she put on 5 kilos of muscle. Now, her weight didn't change once, but her whole body shape did. So she lost over 6% in her body fat percentage. And, she increased her muscle mass, but her weight didn't change. Only focusing on the scale, she would have thought that the program didn't work, but clearly it did. It was working, and she was increasing her muscle mass. So that's another data point to look at. And this is what I'm saying. If we focus on more of the one data point. Somebody else that we've done things with, it's looking at, this is where we, again, looking at data points. So, the old me would have, we talk about this perfectionism cycle, and, that leads us to kind of self-sabotaging, and we're doing the same thing over and over. Like the old, like her would have had a stressful week, and it would have then turned into beating herself up, blaming herself, saying that she couldn't do it, all of those things. And that would have led into like a 2 or 3 or maybe a 4-week cycle of feeling that way, going in quotes off the rails type thing. But instead, this time she recognized that she was feeling stressed, recognized that some of the old habits of what she was doing, and she pulled herself in really quickly within a few days. And so that's, again, another data point of looking and saying, well, look, I've recognized this within a couple of days, where before it took me a month to recognize it. So that's an improvement. It means you're winning and we're moving towards that end goal. I'm somebody that things down. I like to have them in front of my face so that I can see them. And when we have these data points, all these things add up. As part of like the Little Black Dress project, we have things that's like, and we're doing it for the summer shape up at the moment as well. So it's have these things. This is what I want you to achieve today. So when we can look at it at the end, and we can be like, oh, okay, I had I reached this every day. I didn't achieve this. Oh, okay, then we can focus on, let's say, looking at your sleep. Well, I'm only getting 4 hours sleep a night. Okay, that's something that we need to readjust. So because we are looking at all these data points, we could recognize where maybe there's one area that's letting us down. And so, like this other person we had been looking at, and her sleep was really off. So it's like, let's put a little bit of a focus on that, because we've been looking at more data points. I had a girl, and she had her food on point. And when we are looking at all these data points, then it can really show you where you can focus on. She had her food on point. She was tracking her food. Her exercise was amazing. We had all this other stuff. Her sleep, and then it was like, okay, these things you're doing, these things were all on point as to how we know works, but, nothing's changing. I think we've got to look at your stress and how that is. And so then, because we had all these data points and we were looking at all these data points, and things weren't changing, we were able to work out an area that we could focus on. And this is what I want for you. I want you to be able to see that there is more than one thing to focus on. And when we look at everything from all directions, you will, really be able to see that you can get the results that you want. And when we stop punishing ourselves and we stop giving, when we focus on one thing, you're really limiting yourself, because this idea of being perfect, we can't be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. There is always going to be speed humps. There is going to be blockers in the way. There's going to be things that happen. But when you can look at everything and expect that to happen on whatever journey you're on, expect that there will be, a speed hump. Because I always expect that to happen. But when we can look at things from the bigger perspective, and we can look at all the data points, then we can know we can focus our attention instead of guessing. And that's why I like to have things written down. I like to have it in front of your face. And probably the biggest thing that, I feel that the scale is one thing. It is one of these data points that we look at, but it is not the be all and end all. And I just urge people to stop giving the scale a meaning and look at it as a data point, and give it this data point and listen and look at the feedback from the scales. Because we say that we're hiding from the scales and we don't want to weigh ourselves or any of those things, but it's just a piece of information. And when I get on the scales and you realize that you may have put on some weight, then I go, okay, when I'm honest with myself, I can say, oh, I kind of know what I'm doing. I know, and then you can rein it in a little bit, and you can recognize it a lot earlier, because 5 kilos is a lot easier to lose than 10 or 20. So if you are understanding the data points and you are checking in with yourself and those things, then you're going to recognize it a lot earlier before it gets out of hand. So hopefully that has been helpful to somebody, and you've been able to see that the scale does not define you. It gives you no meaning, but it is just a piece of data that you can take. And when we look at all the data and we take everything, that is how you're going to get the long-lasting results that everybody desires. So there'll be no more yo-yoing. There will be no more looking at these fad diets. You're just going to have something that you can stick to consistently. So, so hopefully that's what I wanted to get off my chest. Hopefully that can help you all, and I look forward to hearing from you. If this has helped you, or if you know somebody that it will help, please make sure that you share it with them. You've made my journey go a little bit quicker, so that's really, really nice, and hopefully I didn't miss the turn off before. And I will speak to you all soon.